All right, so get ready for a deep dive into something a little different. Imagine taking all the wisdom from those classic little golden books, not for, bedtime stories, but for like navigating adult life.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be exploring everything I need to know I learned from a little golden book. It's a book that takes those, those charming vintage illustrations.
Yeah.
And like pairs them up with advice for adults.
Right.
So it's like a time capsule of wisdom.
Yeah.
From like a simpler time.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how we often dismiss these books as, childish.
Right.
But they could actually have like surprisingly relevant insights.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like revisiting familiar ground, but with fresh eyes, searching for like those hidden gems of wisdom that we might have just overlooked as kids.
Exactly. And so that's what we're doing today, trying to unearth all those nuggets of gold tucked away in these classic tales. Think back to your favorite golden book.
Yeah.
Did it have any surprising lessons that stuck with you into adulthood?
Our mission today is to see if these stories can give us some practical, maybe even unexpected advice for navigating the twists and turns of being an adult.
The book's premise itself is interesting. The editor, they realized that these books, many of them from the mid-20th century, often had this implied wisdom that could be applied to adult situations. So take the image of Chicken Little, the fox is behind the tree.
Right.
The book uses it to illustrate the grown-up advice. Steer clear of shady characters.
I love that. Yeah. It's so visual, you instantly get it. But it does make you wonder, can these simple stories from our childhood really help us figure out the complicated adult world?
Right.
Or is it just nostalgia?
Well, I think nostalgia definitely plays a role.
Yeah.
Seeing, characters like Scuffy the Tugboat or the Pokey Little Puppy used to illustrate grown-up issues definitely triggers a sense of comfort and familiarity.
Yeah, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think these books often tap into some universal truths about kindness, resilience, the importance of simple joys, and those are themes that resonate, just as strongly, if not more so, in adulthood.
Right.
Okay.
I'm starting to see how this works. But let's get practical.
Okay.
What kind of advice are we talking about here? Spill the tea.
Okay, so the book covers a wide range of topics, from health and well-being to relationships and lifestyle choices. In terms of health, it encourages some simple but essential things.
Okay.
Get some exercise every day. That's paired with an image of people happily frolicking, reminding us that movement should be joyful, not a chore.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
It's not about hitting the gym. It's about finding ways to move your body that you enjoy.
Exactly. And it also reminds us to get plenty of sleep. It shows someone blissfully flying a kite.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like saying rest is not laziness. It's recharging so you can soar. And it even suggests taking a mental health day now and then, acknowledging that sometimes a good cry can be the best medicine.
Right. Right. Those are good reminders. We often push ourselves too hard. Forgetting that, self-care is essential, not selfish. What about relationships? What kind of guidance does the book offer there?
So the relationship advice kind of continues in that heartwarming vein. It advises us to be a hugger. Right? And it's alongside an image of people embracing. It's a simple reminder of the power of physical touch and human connection. And then it says, keep in touch. It shows a group of friends joyfully spending time together.
Right.
So it's not groundbreaking advice, but it does highlight the importance of nurturing those relationships in a world that can feel increasingly isolating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's that, classic steer clear of shady characters with the Chicken Little and the fox, reminding us to choose our friends wisely. Do any other pieces of advice jump out at you?
Well, when it comes to lifestyle, there's this interesting mix of practical and aspirational advice.
Okay.
It says, get dressed first thing. Sweatpants are bad for morale. So whether or not you agree with that sentiment, it does raise a point about the psychology of clothing and how it impacts our mood and productivity.
I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But I do feel more put together when I make an effort with my clothes, even if I'm just working from home.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the point. It's not about, a strict dress code, but it's about recognizing how our choices, even something as simple as what we wear, can impact our overall well-being.
I love that. It's all about those little things that add up to a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
What other lifestyle tips does the book have?
Okay, so it encourages us to make music a part of your life. Now, that could mean, learning an instrument, going to concerts, or simply, just creating a playlist that lifts your spirits.
Right.
It also reminds us to turn off the TV from time to time and crack open a book. So in today's world of constant digital stimulation, that advice feels especially relevant.
Right. It's like a gentle nudge to, disconnect from all the noise and reconnect with yourself. Maybe, rediscover the simple pleasure of getting lost in a good book.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are there any more of these?
The book also encourages us to look up and savor the seasons as they roll around. So it's reminding us to be present, to appreciate the beauty that surrounds us, and embrace those natural rhythms of life.
Okay.
And finally, it advises us to make something from nothing. Learn to cook and clean.
Okay, that one hits a little too close to home for some of us. But I get it. There is a sense of satisfaction and self-sufficiency that comes with mastering those essential life skills.
Exactly. It's about taking pride in creating something with our own hands.
Yeah.
Whether it's a delicious meal or a well-organized home.
Right. So we've covered health, relationships, and lifestyle. What about our, mindset? Does the book offer any, guidance for navigating the, mental and emotional ups and downs of being a grown-up?
So the mindset advice is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It tells us to don't panic. Today's a new day.
Good.
Using a vibrant circus image, it's reminding us that even when things feel chaotic, there's always a chance to start fresh.
Love that. It's like saying, take a deep breath, you got this.
Right. And it also suggests that we treat ourselves. The simplest things are often the most fun. And that's alongside a delightful picnic scene.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a reminder to find joy in everyday moments, to savor the simple pleasures and prioritize experiences over material possessions.
It's so easy to get caught up in, the hustle and bustle of life, forgetting to, to slow down and appreciate those little moments that make it all worthwhile. What other, mindset tips does the book have?
Okay, it continues with some real gems. It reminds us to use your imagination.
Right.
To stay curious and to, dare to explore what's out there for you. Express yourself.
I love these.
Yeah.
It's all about embracing our individuality, nurturing, creativity, never losing that childlike sense of wonder. It's like saying, never stop learning, never stop growing, and never be afraid to, let your true self shine through. These are powerful messages.
They are.
Yeah. Even if they're delivered through a children's book.
Exactly. And for those who are planning a wedding, it offers a simple but important reminder.
Okay.
Don't forget to enjoy your wedding.
Right.
Right? It's a gentle nudge to prioritize what truly matters and find joy in those, milestones, big or small, that mark our lives.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the details and the pressure to create the perfect day,
Yeah.
Forgetting that the real celebration is about love and connection.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And for a final dose of that can-do spirit, it encourages us to, think big, toot your own horn,
I love.
and believe in Santa Claus and love at first sight.
Okay, that last one might raise a few eyebrows, but I think it speaks to something important. It's about maintaining that ability for hope, wonder, and open-heartedness that we, often associate with childhood.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful experiences in life require us to suspend this belief and just embrace the unknown, whether it's, the magic of the holidays or the possibility of finding true love. A little bit of belief can go a long way.
Right.
We'll be back in a moment to delve deeper into these ideas and explore the author's perspective on how these childhood lessons can guide us through the, complexities of adult life.
It's crazy how these, seemingly simple messages from our childhood can still, hit us so hard in our adult lives. It's like a part of us remembers those core values, even when the world tries to, mess things up.
Yeah, we have this inner compass.
Right.
Pointing us back to those essential truths about kindness and resilience and finding joy in the simple things. And what's interesting is how the book uses visuals to reinforce those messages. Those vintage illustrations add another dimension to the advice.
Totally. Take that advice, don't forget to enjoy your wedding. On its own, it could sound cliche.
Right.
But paired with a charmingly retro, wedding scene, it suddenly takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
It's like receiving advice from a wise but whimsical, old friend.
It taps into that emotional connection we have with those classic illustrations. It's like they unlock a part of our subconscious,
Right.
making the advice feel more personal, less preachy.
Yeah. This makes me wonder, if these simple children's books can offer such, powerful wisdom, does that mean we often underestimate the power of learning from, like, unexpected sources?
That's a great question. We often think of learning as this like serious, structured process,
Right.
but wisdom can be found in like the most unexpected places. It's about keeping an open mind and a sense of curiosity.
So are you saying we can learn something from, like, every bedtime story ever told? That's a lot of potential wisdom.
It's not necessarily about extracting a specific lesson from every story, but it's more about approaching life with that sense of wonder and that willingness to learn from, anything and everything.
Right.
Sometimes the most profound insights come from the sources we least expect.
Yeah, it's like we make all these arbitrary categories: children's books, adult books, serious topics, lighthearted topics. And, like, maybe those boundaries, hold us back from learning and growing.
I agree. I think learning should be a lifelong journey, a constant, exploration without limitations. Why not find inspiration in a children's book or a comic strip, or even just like a casual conversation?
Right. And maybe there's something to be gained from revisiting those, like, childhood classics, even if it's just for the pure joy of it. Who knows what hidden gems we might, like, find again.
That sense of rediscovery is incredibly valuable. It allows us to connect with a different part of ourselves, a part that's more open to wonder and imagination.
Right.
And sometimes that's exactly what we need to, get through the challenges of adulthood.
So should we all go out and buy a stack of little golden books?
I think it's not about the specific books themselves. It's about cultivating that childlike curiosity, that willingness to see the world with like fresh eyes and find meaning in seemingly simple.
Yeah, I love that. It's like giving ourselves permission to embrace the joy of learning, no matter where it comes from.
Exactly.
And maybe rediscover a little bit of that, like, childhood magic in our adult lives.
Speaking of magic, like, what are your thoughts on that final piece of advice from the book?
Right.
Believe in Santa Claus and love at first sight.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting.
It's a bit whimsical, isn't it?
It is. Like, on the surface, it seems like a lighthearted suggestion.
Yeah.
But I think it speaks to something, like, deeper.
Yeah.
It's about maintaining that capacity for, like, hope, wonder, and open-heartedness that we often associate with, being a kid.
It's interesting how this seemingly simple advice encourages us to embrace, a certain degree of belief, even when it comes to things that might seem like illogical or improbable.
Right. It's not about literally believing in Santa Claus.
Right.
It's about maintaining that, like, that spark of possibility, that willingness to believe in something bigger than ourselves.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful experiences in life, they kind of require us to, like, suspend disbelief and embrace the unknown.
Right.
Whether it's, the magic of the holiday season or the possibility of finding true love, a little bit of belief can go a long way.
And I think that applies to love as well.
Yeah.
To believe in love at first sight might seem naive, but it also speaks to the power of intuition. That feeling of instant connection that can sometimes defy logic.
Yeah, it encourages us to trust our instincts and be open to, like, those serendipitous encounters.
Exactly. It's a refreshing message.
It is.
Especially in a world that, often tells us to be guarded and cynical.
This makes me wonder, are there other, childish beliefs that we might benefit from revisiting as adults? What comes to mind for you?
Well, I'm thinking about, like, the power of imagination.
Okay.
As kids, we're always dreaming up, like, new worlds and possibilities. But somewhere along the way, we start prioritizing practicality over creativity.
It's interesting how we often view imagination as something frivolous, something we outgrow.
Right.
But, like, if you think about it, imagination is the driving force behind progress and change. It's about envisioning a better future and finding, innovative solutions to challenges.
Exactly. Imagine if we all tapped into that, like, childlike sense of wonder and possibility. We might just be able to create a world that's, like, a little bit more magical, a little bit more in line with, like, the dreams we had as kids.
That's a beautiful thought. And it leads us to another interesting question. If you were tasked with writing, like, life advice based on a children's book, which book would you choose and what would your top tip be?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It encourages us to look at those familiar stories with, like, fresh eyes and extract wisdom from unexpected sources.
Yeah. Maybe those insights will spark a whole new wave of adulting wisdom, straight from the pages of our favorite childhood tales.
Right. And now I'm like, I want to hear what our listeners come up with.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Little Golden Books and adulting, there's one more, important aspect we need to touch on.
Okay.
We've talked about the charm and the wisdom of these, childhood lessons.
Right.
But it's also crucial to approach them with, a critical eye.
Mm-hmm.
We'll explore that and more right after this. Okay, so we've been having a lot of fun, rediscovering these little nuggets of wisdom from Little Golden Books.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to remember that not all advice, even from, seemingly innocent sources, is, universally applicable.
Right. It's easy to get swept up in, the charm and the nostalgia, but we need to approach these lessons with a, critical eye.
Yeah.
What works for one person, might not work for another.
Exactly. Like that advice about getting dressed first thing and ditching the sweatpants for, better morale.
Yeah.
That might work for some people.
Right.
But for others, it could feel, weirdly restrictive.
Exactly. I think the key is to, really engage with the advice thoughtfully.
Right.
Ask yourself, does this, speak to me? Does it align with, my values? Is it helpful, right now?
It's about taking ownership of our choices
Right.
and figuring out what works best for us. Not just blindly following someone else's, script.
It's like having a toolbox full of, potential solutions.
Yeah.
Not every tool will be right for every job, but having, a variety of options lets you choose the best one for your needs.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to the larger point of this whole deep dive. It's not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution to adulting.
Right.
It's about, opening ourselves up to different perspectives, marking those aha moments, and ultimately trusting our own, inner wisdom.
Yeah. I think each person's journey is unique. There's no single right way to navigate, the ups and downs of adult life.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you,
Mm-hmm.
learning from your experiences, and, constantly evolving.
And sometimes those, unexpected sources, like a book of advice inspired by, children's literature, can offer those fresh insights, maybe even nudge us in a new direction.
It's a reminder to stay open to learning, to question assumptions, and to embrace the beauty of multiple perspectives. You never know where that next spark of inspiration will come from.
This has been such a fun and thought-provoking, exploration.
It has.
We started with this simple idea of finding life lessons in Little Golden Books. And it's led to some really interesting insights about learning, nostalgia, and the very nature of, adulthood.
It really is amazing how even the most unassuming sources can spark such meaningful conversations. And I hope our listeners are walking away with a renewed appreciation for the power of simple stories and the wisdom they hold.
Absolutely. And I have a feeling our listeners are leaving with a lot to think about, a new perspective on their own, adulting journey, or maybe even a rekindled love for those childhood classics.
And perhaps most importantly, a reminder to never lose that sense of wonder and curiosity we so often associate with childhood.
Yeah.
It's those qualities that keep us, open to learning, growing, and, embracing the adventure of life.
Beautifully said. We talked about the advice we would give based on children's books, but now we want to hear from you. Think back to your favorite childhood story. What wisdom did it impart? And how does that resonate with your life today? Share your thoughts with us on social media or, even with a friend. Keep those conversations going. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those childlike spirits alive.